All right, everybody. Welcome to episode 153 of the Fantasy Timeline, a proud member of the Dynasty Addicts Podcast Network. I'm Josh at Real Fantasy TL, and I am with my main man, Bill at Super Duper Flex. Bill, how you doing, man?
Doing good, man. It's been a minute, huh?
It's been a minute. Obviously, if you know, you know. Bill, the OG, the original better half of mine, getting this show started and going hard for a lot of episodes. I don't remember what the cutoff was exactly, but
I think we got over 100.
oh yeah, we got over 100 for sure.
Maybe
So
like 120, 130 range.
we'll go with that. We'll go with that. So obviously, Drew had some things come up. He could not be here with us, but always Drew's the man. Love him. But we brought in the closer World Series reference. You know, that
Brought
sport
in the
still
lefty.
yeah, that's right. We that sport still gets played. So brought in the closer, and we're gonna have a good time. So Bill, want you to stretch your muscles out a little bit. Remember a little thing we used to do during the season called the good, the bad, and the ugly. So since you're our prize guest here, would you like me to start this one off, or would you like to start it off?
Go ahead. Yeah, why don't you start?
All right. So my good for this past week, week 7, we had a few teams on by. We were scrambling. Bill, did you have any rosters where you were like, oof, I gotta start some real trash off my bench, or were you kind of spared this week?
Yeah, I didn't notice it too much this week, or last week, but this week I'm noticing it a bit more. So, yeah, like one league I am not able to start Herbert or Mahomes. So fortunately, I have Andy Dalton. So thank God they're starting him again, or else I would have no quarterbacks to start this week.
So this past week in the league, um, I didn't have Josh Allen and Kirk Cousins, so I had to go with the PJ Walker, Damian Harris
Or
quarterback
PJ
super,
Harris.
or yeah, PJ Harris,
Yeah.
PJ Walker,
Or
and
PJ
Damian
Walker.
Harris. I thought I said it. That's why I was like, I mean PJ Walker. So yeah, I had PJ Walker and Damian Harris as my quarterback super flex combo in one league
Oh,
because
no, I misunderstood you. Okay, gotcha. So,
because
yeah, Damian
be,
Harris. Oh, that was a rough one, huh?
let's just say I took a loss. I took a loss to Drew, who is actively tanking in that league and was in line for the 101, and that win bounced him currently to the 103.
Uh-oh.
So Drew's probably a little mad at me because I am unfortunately one of those middle of the road teams, which is kind of the place you don't want to be. But that team is so weird. Like that team shouldn't be winning, but it is. And I'm trying to sell assets off, but nobody's buying. So, you know.
Yeah, it's been a tough year for that. I've noticed less trades, I think. There's a lot of people just kind of like in a holding pattern, to see see what's going to happen over the next, few weeks before they really start to get a little bit more aggressive.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see as we start getting closer to playoffs what happens. But
Well, part of the issue is that a lot of the older players aren't performing. So,
right.
like, that's the other challenge. So it's like you can't even like dump your old players for, a team that's contending, because who do
Yeah.
most of them aren't like that you would expect them to.
And
So
of course, a guy kind of like Zeke, who had a pretty good week, is now hurt. So you can't even pawn him off after the hey, look at he had a
right.
good week, type thing. So, but sorry, I got sidetracked. But the reason why I got sidetracked, and I asked you about having to start some guys that you wouldn't normally start, because my good for this week is Mecole Hardman. Listen, 4 receptions for 32 yards and a touchdown. doesn't sound great, right? Doesn't sound like he should be in the good category, except apparently throughout the week he transformed himself into a running back, 2 for 28 and 2 touchdowns in the running game. So 3 total touchdowns, yardage, nothing crazy, 70 total yards, or excuse me, 60 total yards, but 3 touchdowns. So I'm sure a lot of people kind of lucked out, kind of in a situation that I was in. Oh God, you got your Justin Jefferson sitting, you got your Stephon Diggs sitting, you have your, you know, court maybe 2 quarterbacks out because Jalen Hurts was also on bye. So a lot of quarterbacks that you would normally be starting, um, you weren't. So maybe you did have to throw Mecole Hardman, kind of like I had to throw Damian Harris into a super flex spot and just throw your hands up to hope for the best. And I'm sure a couple of people were rewarded because they just had to hope for the best. But I did want to give Mecole Hardman some love because this may be the first and only time I do that. I have not been a Mecole guy. I wasn't a Mecole guy when he got drafted. So good for him. He had a blow up week. Bill, why don't you hit us with your good for this week?
Yeah, my good is Ken Walker. My Spartan or Demon
That's,
Deacon.
that's all right.
So yeah, I mean, 23 carries, 167 yards, two touchdowns. He's shown. I mean, his agility and just like his movement. In traffic is pretty just. I mean, it's been amazing, and I mean, he's doing exactly what I saw last year when he was playing for Michigan State, and it's pretty impressive. So, he just hopped in there, got the opportunity, and has enough opportunity now to, um, to show what he can do with a little bit of volume, and he is actually catching a few passes, not a ton, but
Right.
like he's proving that he can at least be a pass catcher. He's not going to be a route runner, but he's adequate, for like, maybe Leonard Fournette or something like that, where everybody thought he couldn't catch. And,
Right.
He's at least showing that he's caught 70 passes or something, or 60 passes or something like that. So, maybe at some point in time over the next few years, he can, if the offense changes, in Seattle, he might be able to show that he's a little bit more dynamic than what he can show right now. Yeah. So he, I think a lot of people are questioning because he came in injured, he got injured right before the season started. And, he didn't really pop as early as, some of the other backs, like Dameon Pierce and Breece Hall. But, I mean, now he's showing what he can do. It's almost like, feels like, Nick Chubb when he was playing behind Carlos Hyde. And then when they traded him to Jacksonville, then Chubb just like popped. And it's almost like this is what happened. Just different circumstances on how he got the opportunity. But yeah, I'm kind of happy. Well, I'm not kind of, I'm very happy just because, Spartan alum here. So it's, always fun to root for guys that played at your school. And, it's, it's been a minute for us to have a running back that's been, well, Le'Veon Bell, I guess.
I was going to say, you had that Lev Bell guy. He was pretty decent in the league.
He was all right for a minute. Yeah, he burned hot. So, but yeah, no, it's that's cool. So, yeah, and he's just fun to watch, honestly. Like, he's one of those guys where you're just like, I mean, I hate to say it because it's like, but he almost reminds me of like a poor man's version of Barry Sanders, just like what he can kind of do like on his own. Because it's not like their offensive line is like fantastic, but
they're decent, but they're not special. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But with that speed and just the agility, it's pretty fun to watch.
Yeah, and that's a great one. Honestly, every time I see him or I hear about him blowing up, I think about you, and I know that your heart grows 3 sizes every time Ken Walker goes out there and does work. So Great pick, and I agree with everything that you said. I mean, the funny part is that the Seahawks may be able to draft their quarterback of the future using Denver's pick, which who would have thunk that
Yeah,
before the
right.
season
Like
started?
you'd have thought that'd have been like in the 20s,
So they may get their quarterback of the future using Denver's own pick, but there's a lot of a lot of young talent on that team. You have DK Metcalf, you have Ken Walker there now. If they bring a quarterback in through the draft, um, they've been drafting offensive linemen, and I wouldn't be shocked if they draft a couple more young offensive linemen over the next year or two. So yeah, they're building a nice young offense there, and it's going to be fun to watch. Uh, my bad for this week, and as I say, when I see Ken Walker, I think of you, and I'm happy because I know you're happy. This is not a dig at you, but this dude ended up in my bad, and he deserved it. Jared Goff, 21 for 26. All right, for 228 yards. Not great, but not bad. But he threw 2 interceptions. That's not good. Oh yeah, and he fumbled the ball twice and lost both fumbles. That's not good. 4 total turnovers. And listen, I get it. It's Dallas. Their defense is one of the best, if not the best in the league. But Jared Goff was like a top 5 quarterback like a couple weeks ago. And I think, he hit the train. Uh, they get blanked in New England. And, I looked at that game kind of as, all right, that's just one of those weird NFL games. These things happen sometimes and you can't look into it. And maybe it's a weird game piled on top of playing a really good defense. They play Miami next week. So that should kind of be more geared towards a shootout. We'll see what happens. Uh, Miami didn't look great Sunday night. Offensively, they didn't look great, but we'll see what happens there. But yeah, Jared Goff. I mean, 4 turnovers. That's a ton. I mean, for anybody, I don't care if it's Patrick Mahomes or Jared Goff. Four turnovers will probably put you on the bad list most weeks. So I love Ken. I love Ken Walker for you. I little sadness for Jared Goff for you.
No, I'm totally okay with that. Like, I mean, I've never been a Goff guy. I mean, so like it's when he was in the top 5 or 6 or whatever, I knew that was just that was fool's gold. And that was not going to last. That to give him a little bit of an excuse at least is the last few weeks he's been playing without most of his offensive, weapons. So, um, this is a team that can't lose players and still be, an efficient offense. So, like, I mean, he needs to have every single weapon. He's not a guy who is going to take a team and put him on his back and, win games for them. So
Yeah.
they have to have every, piston pumping and, he's not he's not winning any games driving a 4-banger. So, and that's what he had. So,
Yeah.
I like that. That's a good bad. I mean, he is what he is. He's a, like in that middling, like what, 14 to 22 tier of quarterback ish. Maybe I'm being too nice. 18 to 26.
I was gonna say 14 to 22 is ish this year. So
yeah, it is all.
You're not wrong.
You're
about
right.
that.
So
you're not wrong about that.
He's in that big tier, of just who might be matchup. So
right.
But yeah, he's not a guy that I'm thankful the Lions have a couple first round picks for next year. So let's just say that. So
yeah, and let's not forget Jameson Williams is going to be coming back soon. So
yeah, it'll be fun, man. It's going to be a fun offense, and I think moving forward. So I'm okay. Like after they started losing a bit, I'm okay with them just dumping the season and trying for a good pick. And they the owner came out and said that she's, content. She's disappointed in where the team is, but we have to have patience. So I think there's kind of a game plan, like they're not going to get rid of, the staff or anything like that. I don't think so. But yeah, my bad is basically the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's just like that is like this high volume offense, all these, you wanted every wide receiver, you wanted whatever tight end, the starting running back, you wanted everybody that was on the field basically in a skill position, and you'd be happy starting them. And now it's like, I don't know, I don't know how confident you are in starting anybody. I mean, you can still, like, Godwin, I think he hasn't scored a touchdown yet. Like, I mean, he has all the other peripherals, I guess, or the stats, but just no touchdowns. So he's not producing as highly as his actual, volume and production has been. He's not just scoring fantasy points. And then, man, like Mike Evans dropping that like bomb, it was just like something I'd never seen before. Like, I mean, it was just like right in his hands, and he decided to start juggling.
Yeah.
So like the whole team is like, the offensive line is just not the same. They're not they're still passing at a high volume. I think Brady threw I think I have it up here. Brady threw for 49 times, but 290 yards. Like, it's not,
That's crazy. Yeah.
So I mean, it's just a bad situation there. Chris Godwin, 7 catches, 43 yards. Cade Otton is the second leading receiver. Russell Gage has never really taken off. It's just kind of a mess. Fournette 8 for 19, Rashad White for 6 for 24 last week. Like, it's just a kind of a mess, and this is all against the Panthers.
The Panthers, yeah. I mean, if we would have done this show last week, and I said to you, hey, Bill, bet you PJ Walker has more fantasy points than Tom Brady.
Yeah.
You would have been like, you're on drugs.
Well, the only way that's happening is if Brady gets pulled at halftime because they're like smoking them, like that would be my response.
And PJ Walker was the better quarterback in that game. That is a weird statement to say.
Yeah.
Like, and I get it. 2022 has been weird. It's been a weird year for fantasy, and I get that. But you could have never convinced me it would have gotten so weird that I would have said, in a game where PJ Walker is on one side and Tom Brady's on the other side, even a bad Tom Brady game, we would have said we'll beat a good PJ Walker game. And it did not happen. So, yeah, the Bucs, man. A lot of people, myself included, put some investments in that Tampa Bay offense because we're like, hey, come on, it's Brady, it's Evans, it's Godwin, they got Russell Gage. They're probably going to call up Gronk in week 9 or 10. They might call him. He ain't going to answer. Not the way this team is playing. He ain't answering. But they got Leonard Fournette. Rashad White could be a nice little piece, midway through the season. And we're looking at most of it, and we're like, we're good. Like, we can do without. But that another good one, another banger. Let's get ugly here. This is not the first time I've called this player ugly this season. Not a player that I thought I would ever call ugly ever in any game of any season. Kyle Pitts.
So we can have this conversation together because my ugly also entails basically the whole offense.
Okay, perfect.
So my ugly was that as well. So
let's throw it all in a blender then. We're going to do, for the first time ever, we're going to do an ugly together as a tag team. Kyle Pitts, 3 receptions. All right, you want 5, 6, 7 receptions, but it's Kyle Pitts, right? We don't have to worry about this at all. 3 receptions on 5 targets, 9 yards. Now, I don't want people to get confused. I didn't say 90. I said 9, the number after 8.
And what's crazy about that is that was a 38% target share because Marcus Mariota was 8 for 13.
So someone made the joke. I think Justin Fields threw it 28 times Monday night, if I'm correct. It was either 24 or 28 times. And someone made the joke, Marcus Mariota would dream about being able to throw the ball 24 or 28 times. So I love the target share stat on that because it reminded me of that joke, which is 100% true. Listen, everything on that offense is bad because the coaching staff wants to be. They kind of want to be the Dallas Cowboys, where it's like, hey, let's run the ball effectively and play good defense, but they don't have good running backs or good defense. So it's like, what are we doing here? You have Drake London, who the first couple of weeks showed that he can be a really good receiver. They have Kyle Pitts, who last year showed he can be a really good receiver, and they're like focused on running the ball in games where they're getting blown out too, by the way.
Well, and they were losing 21-0 like a minute into the second quarter. Yeah. So it's like there's no excuse to not be, not passing the ball. And Drake London, 1 catch, 9 yards. So you have 2 guys who are both selected early first round, 4 catches for 18 yards.
Yep.
And he only completed 8. But they got 124 yards. So there's 106 to the other, and the other 4, 106 yards for the other 4 completions. So like, it's just like he's trying so hard. Like, I mean, he's completely trying to recreate Tennessee.
Yes.
Like that's it but he doesn't have Derrick Henry. And I mean, you have to have play action, and like, there's no play action because, like the teams aren't going to respect it because, I mean, you have Algier, you have, Huntley, their top 2 running backs are hurt. So it's just like, I get you want to build an identity and all of that, but like, and I mean, kudos to him. It's been pretty effective based on like what we expected this team to be, with Mariota at quarterback, and they're still like competing, and they're close in every game because of it. And he's just like basically, throwing out the like the mud so that everybody's just sloshing through this, and there's no like, there's no, I don't know, like, there, you can't have any continuity just because your offense is sitting for 8 minutes each time before you get the ball again.
Yeah, and so here's my thing, especially in a game like this, like you said, they were down 21-0 like a couple minutes into the second quarter. If in a game like that where you're getting blown out, if you don't believe in Marcus Mariota to throw the ball as much as you need to try to come back, why is Desmond Ridder not getting a look? Just to see if he can spark the offense, kind of like we saw with Bailey Zappi. Listen, we were all like, Bailey Zappi, this guy, whatever. Mac Jones is injured, and the team looked like it had a spark. Now, Monday night, he got kind of put in halfway through the game, and, he had a couple of, good moments, but a few bad moments as well. But why not? What's the worst that can happen? You just have another Marcus Mariota. Okay, cool. You can go back to Marcus Mariota to start the following week. You don't need to say, all right, now let's stick with, Desmond Ridder because we put him in halfway through a game. I mean, it just is confusing to me why in a situation like that, you don't uh you don't bring in the rookie and just see if he can spark the offense. Obviously, if it's a close game, no, Desmond Ritter can stay on the bench. Who cares? But in a game like that, if Marcus Mariota wasn't in the plans to throw the ball a bunch of times to try to come back, you know, why wasn't Ritter brought out there?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think, strangely, it got reasonably close by halftime, and I didn't
Right.
watch the game, so like I don't necessarily know exactly how that happened. But it obviously wasn't the offense. So I think I don't know. Like I can't explain it really. I
Yeah.
mean, at some point, it's just like I don't know. These rookies you draft, you got 5 years of their contract. Like at a reasonable price because like do you think Kyle Pitts, if this is the situation, do you think he's going to want to stay in Atlanta if this is
No.
the,
No.
the MO of the offense? And Drake London, I mean, like he started out so
Oh
prolific,
man.
and then all of a sudden just like they're not doing anything. And so it's just a conundrum of sorts. I don't really understand it. And I mean, I guess I really don't have to. I mean, um, as long as the coach Arthur Smith knows, he obviously has a plan and he's sticking to it. Like maybe he felt that was the only way they could compete with the Bengals. I don't know, but the Bengals were just torching them. So it's
Yeah.
like, I mean, Burrow had what 350 yards or something at halftime. So
Yeah. Well, wasn't one of the first one or two passes of the game of just a bomb to Tyler Boyd?
yeah,
I mean, I think that was the first pass of the game. Might have been the second. I don't quite remember, but I mean, they literally just started off the game, and it was almost like a kickoff return for a touchdown. I mean, the game was so new that all of a sudden it's 7-0, and you're like, wait a minute, did any time even come off the clock? So, um, you know, yeah, I'm glad we got the tag team that one because we got to air a lot of grievances, and I will say, I I have a few shares of Pitts, and I traded a share in a trade addicts league before the season started.
oh, okay, good.
I'll tell you. So I got Darren Waller and two firsts, and I was like, oh, and a second, two firsts and a second, all 23 picks, and I didn't know how I felt about it at the time. I was like, God, did I make? Did I?
Thoughts now?
I'm fine with it,
Okay.
especially because this is a rebuild. So I turned um, Waller into Fryermuth and a first. There were other pieces involved with that as well, but um, Derek Carr. I also sent Derek Carr with Waller. I got back what's his name from the Jets, Zach Wilson. So, but trading Kyle Pitts kind of really has given me a lot of ammunition now because
Sure.
I got three firsts and I still have Fryermuth out of it as well. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like, um, but I'm telling you, this is not one of those things where I'm sitting now and say, oh, at the time I felt great about it. I
Right.
was, there was some hand wringing like, man, did I just trade, especially because this is a rebuild. So trading a young asset like that, yes, I got picks, but the player I got back was an older player, was Darren Waller. Did I make the right move there? And now I'm kind of like, I like, I have other, I'm still feeling the pain in other leagues, but at least in that league in a rebuild, I'm like, all right, I think I did something to really benefit my team. So
Yeah, sometimes you have to break that big piece into parts,
yeah, yeah,
and it just gives you more room for growth because really at that point, like how much more is Pitt's getting value, how much more value is he going to accrue? Even if he has like a 70-1200 season, like
right,
I mean, his value was already astronomical, and like everybody was drinking the Kool-Aid, and it's like everybody, like I didn't hear one person be like, nah, he's not good, or whatever. Like, everybody believed he was a top 3, tight end this year.
Right. And here's the thing, you know, we can we kind of bash Atlanta all we want for fantasy purposes, but Atlanta right now, if the draft were to start today, would be picking 10th, and they would be out of range, based on what all the mocks and everything are saying right now. They would be out of range for one of those top quarterback prospects. So we're like, oh well, you know, I'm sure the Pitts truthers are saying, well, you can throw this in the trash because it's Marcus Mariota. They'll get a guy next year. And I'm not saying the first round is the only place you can get a quarterback. We see it every year. Quarterbacks start for teams that get taken everywhere in the draft. But we were all kind of thinking, well, Atlanta's going to have like a top 3 pick probably. And, they'll get a quarterback. Well, now it's kind of like, all right, well, maybe the quarterback comes in the second round. Okay, well, who's that going to be? How confident are we going to feel? Or maybe it's Desmond Ritter, starting next year. And how do we feel about
Garoppolo, somebody like that. It's got to
right?
be somebody that's like a retread of another team,
Carson Wentz gets traded again.
for a third rounder.
That guy will perpetually get second and third round picks in the NFL for the rest of his career. And I don't know how he does it, but God bless him. Uh, you know, but yeah, like so then are we gonna go, oh, next year it's random second round quarterback throwing the ball to Kyle Pitts. How do we feel? Or, you know, Desmond Ritter's throwing the ball to Kyle, so yeah, we'll see what happens. I don't like this far out, but I'm just saying I think a lot of us thought that they were going to be a top 3 pick, get one of those, you know, CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, quarterbacks, and that guy's going to throw to. They could have had Justin Fields.
Keep losing, Lions. Keep losing.
Bill's got the right idea. Bill's like, keep that number 1 pick and do whatever you got to do to keep it.
Yeah.
So that's the good, the bad, and the ugly. Appreciate doing that with you, Bill. We got a couple of questions in the chat, so let's hit those up right now. This one is from Benguin02YT. Should I trade Pittman for Najee and Goddard in a deep PPR league, 16-man? His starting tight end is Taysom Hill, I'm assuming, in this one. And he's 3-4. His wide receivers are Juju and Chase, and his running backs are Pierce and Damian Harris. So this is a redraft league, which he lets us know right under there. Yeah, this is tough, but I go with yeah. And this is the reason why. Normally, I think I would go with no. But Pittman is now going to have the ball thrown to him by Sam Ellinger. That decision was made. I get it from Frank Reich's perspective. Matt Ryan leading the league in total turnovers, both interceptions and fumbles. You're not going to win games like that. And I think this is a team that a lot of us thought with Matt Ryan were going to win the AFC South and be in the playoffs, and then anything can happen. And they look terrible. Offensively, they look terrible. They're 30th in the league in points per game. I mean, nothing is kind of, and this is a team with Michael Pittman, with Jonathan Taylor. Like, we've seen Paris Campbell have good games this year. And if I would have told you, hey, Paris Campbell's going to have good games this year, you'd be like, oh, this offense is unstoppable. And it's just not what has happened. So, yeah, I would trade him. Najee is like, that's another offense that's just kind of gross to watch. But Dallas Goedert, part of a good offense. And, I mean, I know Taysom Hill had the 4 touchdown game, but I think that's a pretty good upgrade at tight end position. I don't know if you're losing anything because I don't know what Sam Ellinger is going to be at wide receiver, and you know, I still think Najee's better than Damian Harris at running back. Even with what Najee's been doing this year. So I go with a yes in this situation. What do you think, Bill?
Yeah, I agree. I think that, like, I mean, what's the difference really between like Goddard and Pittman moving forward? Um, Aside from Goddard being in just a shithole tight end, you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah,
you can get a tight end that's actually going to produce and on a prolific offense, like and pretty consistently. I'm all for adding a player like that. If you end up with one of those top 3, 4 tight ends, I mean, you have a huge advantage. And Najee, you're buying low. He has had the foot injury. He had a metal plate or something in his shoe. They removed that. Maybe it's going to take a little bit more time. Maybe he never comes back. But like, you know, you got to hope the offense is going to get better. You got a rookie quarterback who just started it, a few games ago, and maybe they improve over the course of the season. And so you're almost getting a free roll, in my opinion, with Najee. And I would totally do that just for the depth and just for bye weeks. So it's like, I think, especially in a deep league, and you can add that player and not worry about having to drop, necessarily somebody of, you know, equal level or value. Yeah, I'm totally down for that. I think that's good. You're 3-4. Roll the dice. Hope you can hit big with Najee, and good luck.
yeah, and I also think in a 16-team league too, getting two
So is it a
pieces.
16-man league or is it a 16-team league?
You know
Like
what?
I read it as, when you said deep, I read it as
A six,
16-man league.
so maybe that maybe yeah. It could. It is a
I mean, but
redraft.
regardless, my answer
It
is
is
the
a
same.
redraft. It is a redraft league, so it's probably 16-man rosters. You're probably
But
right
if it
about
is a
that.
16-team league, that's even more reason to do
Right.
that trade.
And,
So
and that's what that's what I was going towards, but I think I'm not reading it correctly. I think he's saying that it's 16-man
so is your
uh
answer the same?
roster. Oh yeah, because I mean I really fear for Pittman this year. I mean, I do. I mean, do we really sit here and go Sam Ellinger is the catalyst to spark this offense? I mean, maybe he is, but I don't see it that way. So
Yeah, and I mean, like, are they going to throw at the volume that they were with Matty Ice? I mean, I would doubt it. I think they're going to
right,
be like protecting the
exactly.
inexperienced quarterback, and the inexperienced quarterback can move. So like he
Oh
can
yeah,
scramble and he can do those sort of things. So it's just, I feel like the volume is going to be lower, and I don't necessarily feel like super confident. I feel like he's going to be able to, maybe it might be a net
net
0,
zero. Yeah,
because he's gonna be able to prolong plays that Ryan couldn't. So um but so who knows? But I mean, I think just rolling the dice on the two player on Najee alone is worth it. So but yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how that goes. But I think they're gonna be running the ball and dumping off to Hines and the running backs, and and Taylor. And so I think that's a pretty easy accept on my
yeah,
end.
I agree. So we're both in the same place. Get yourself some of the Najee and Goddard there. This next one here is from Rojo Fish. He's in third place. He just lost to the 1 seed, uh, undefeated team by 3 points. That hurts. That hurts a lot. His QBs are killing him. Stafford, A Rod, Winston, Zach Wilson. I just want to stop right there. Could you imagine if I told you before the season you're starting two quarterbacks are Matt Stafford and Aaron Rodgers? And then I said, by the way, you're going to be disappointed with that. You'd be like, yeah, you're crazy. Get out of here. It's two of the best fantasy
Yeah.
quarterbacks to have. And he's right. They are killing a lot of teams.
Yeah, with those four quarterbacks, I would think there's going to be at least one of those guys hits. Like, I mean, if Stafford struggles, Rodgers is Rodgers. I mean, Winston, if he pops, we've seen what he does before. Maybe Zach Wilson, grows from rookie year. Like, there's just so many opportunities. Like, I really like the quarterback room if you don't hit one of the elite guys. It's just this is one of those years.
And the crazy part about this, this is directed towards Zach Wilson. If I had told you that the New York Jets are 5-2, which is what they currently are, by the way, they are 5-2. You would have said to me, Zach Wilson took the leap. Elijah Moore is killing it. Garrett Wilson is killing it. Breece Hall is killing it. And except for Breece Hall and the first few weeks of Garrett Wilson, that is all not true.
Yeah, Corey Davis somehow is the
Corey Davis just catches 60-yard bombs every week. It's not sustainable. Corey Davis is like, yeah, watch me. It's sustainable. I'll do this one time every week. But, it's just, like I mentioned earlier, how crazy this season has been. But he says the rest of his team is loaded. Should he trade his 23 first and 24 first and 325 first for Hurts and AJ Brown? So that's a big boy push into the pot there, because that's 5 first-round picks. And I know a lot of people say, I can get a 24 first back. I can get a 25 first back. Okay, fine. But they have value. They really do, because guess what? We're going to blink our eyes and we're going to start talking about the 24 class. The 24 class has got guys and they got players in it. Quarterback. I've already heard quarterbacks in the 24 class are really good. So we're tiptoeing right now. We're kind of walking very slowly. But come December, yeah, we're going to be talking about the 23 class because that's what we're drafting. But we've been talking about that for 3 years now. The 24 class is going to come into play. And then all of a sudden it's going to be well, the 25 class is only 1 year out. So as much as we say we can get these things back, and you can if you're constantly trading, I think they have more value than some people will give credit for. But I went down a little rabbit trail there. 5 firsts for Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown. How do you feel about that? If you're in third place, you're trying to win the championship, and you need that quarterback, what are you thinking?
So I'm gonna assume this is 1 QB and 12 team.
Hold on. Sorry about that. 10-man super flex. I'm assuming this is a 10-team super flex.
So that changes a lot for me.
Right.
So I'm doing it. I think that Hurts. I mean, what's Hurts got to be worth now? He's got to be worth at least 2, right? I mean, I think that I would argue but there's only 123 first in this. So
right.
I would say if somebody said give me a 23, 24, and 25 first for Hurts, I don't think that that's unreasonable at all. So I'm 100% making this trade because with it being super flex, you want to have the studs, especially in a 10-teamer. So you're going to have Jalen Hurts stud. I mean, he might be worth that package alone. Really. So I mean, yes, if you could hold on to those and do really well. I'm guessing you didn't give up a ton for those 25 firsts, just because you're not trading those at value yet, because you have to, the time is what's going to increase those. So, yeah, I'm totally down with that because you got a good team. You just barely lost to the best team. I think you are already a contender. So adding AJ Brown, who's and his quarterback, I think I do that, no doubt. I
So
think I like the thought, and I like being aggressive when you have the chance, because who's to say those young wide receivers pan out? We think they're going to, but we like 3 weeks into the season, we thought these guys were going to be like God mode the whole season, and all these guys petered out, right? I mean, Pickens
yeah.
is starting to pick up now, but like, um, who's to
Olave,
say Olave? I mean, Olave looks great. Like, I
yeah, he's
mean,
been
he's
pretty
I think my
consistent.
favorite one. I think
Right.
he's the one I'm most confident in. But Dubs, or Dobbs, he's not doing. He's kind of losing favor from Rodgers.
Hmm.
Sky Moore's done nothing.
Nope.
Dotson touchdowns, but he's not really getting volume. So, like, I mean, those three aren't guys I'm super confident in long term. I mean, I'd love to have them on my team just because I think that there is upside. But yeah, I really, you're gonna lose Hopkins probably within a year. So like, I like adding AJ Brown and Hurts. Like, I think this is a no brainer for me.
Yeah, you end up with a top three of Jamar Chase, AJ Brown, and Chris Olave. Like pretty good. This year, your flex is gonna be D Hop, assuming this is start three. If it's start two with multiple flex, I mean you got D Hop going, you got Olave going, like yeah, like wow. Um here's a question, and he has a second second part of the question here. But besides Josh Allen, is there a quarterback worth more than Jalen Hurts in Superflex right now?
I think you have to say Mahomes is still worth more.
Okay.
And then I think there's a tier of a few guys. Like, I think Allen and Mahomes are the two guys like I want for sure over Hurts. Um, so yeah, I think teams are gonna adjust at some point, whether it's this year or next year to
Hmm.
Hurts.
Hmm.
I don't. He's not going to be as prolific, I don't think, long term, as he is this year. I could be wrong, but I'm willing. I'd rather take the Mahomes. I know the next decade, as long as there's no injuries or anything, like he's just awesome, and Allen's burning so hot, like it's just like he's like just on
Yeah.
just a level above. So you could argue Herbert, he's got to hurt because he's young also. You could argue Lamar
Yep.
because he has that upside, but I don't necessarily, I can hear the argument for Hurts over him.
Hmm.
So I think that there's the two, and then I think that there's like, probably 4 or 5 guys I could, I could argue any of them.
Yep.
And Hurts is in that. So, but there's only like 7 guys I'm like super happy are on my roster.
For real. Yeah. Absolutely. Um, and that's why I wanted to ask the question to see if, in your mind, because I know a lot of people will go, it's the legs for Hurts because he is kind of like that Lamar-ish type quarterback where it's like, yeah, he can, and he's showing this year that he can throw the ball now. Before it was just kind of like, hey, it didn't matter what he did in the passing game because he would run so much that it would make up for all of his passing game sins. And now it's like, oh snap, like he can throw too.
Well, they
So
got a wide receiver that fits his strengths, right? So Devonta Smith is more of a deep ball guy. I mean,
right,
not like super, but more intermediate.
yeah,
But AJ Brown is like, all right, a dot of, you know, 7 or
yeah,
whatever, you know what I mean? And he's gonna get you another 20.
yep,
He's
yep,
he's just they fit perfectly. And then because of that, Devonta Smith, everything, builds on it, and then you have Goddard. So you have so many things that are just like, in orchestra, and you know, they're fun to watch. Like, I mean,
yeah.
I enjoy watching them, even when they beat the Lions. Like, that was a fun game,
That was a fun game. That was a fun
and
game.
Like, I mean, they're just fun to watch, and they're just getting better. But if their defense gets too good, that could end up affecting um, the offense, right? Because or fantasy wise, like
Right.
so we'll see. But yeah, I think as we talked this out, that trade is like if it's in your inbox, I'm breaking a finger, like,
Yeah.
and be happy
Because
about it.
you're saying the rest of your team is loaded. So not only do you get the big time quarterback, right, to kind of alleviate some of your worries there, because obviously Stafford and Aaron Rodgers just they're not doing that for you this year, and maybe one or both of them, you know, figure it out and improve, and but you have that locked in every week. All right, here's that dude who's going to start at quarterback, and I have no worries about what his output is going to be. But then getting AJ Brown on top of that, like, yeah, man. Do again think it's worth it? Yes, we both think it's worth it. He said he could get a pick or two before 2025 again, and
Yeah,
that's what.
you can be wheeling and dealing. There that's so long from now. I mean, my God, that's like 2.5 years, and so you have plenty of time. And at the end of the year, if you're like, all right, I'm gonna trade AJ Brown, maybe you get a couple firsts for him.
Yeah,
Depending on because this is a late first that you're giving away this year too,
yep,
so it's not nearly as sexy, as if it's like a 104 or something like that. So, um, yeah, man, this is like
yeah,
yeah,
and
I'm getting all tingly just thinking about it. Like
and if he wins, you're paying for that league for the next 4, 5, 6 years through 2025 is
free roll,
whatever.
yeah.
You can kick your feet up and worry about 2025 when 2025 gets here. You don't even have to worry about, oh, I got to get those picks back. Like you won the league, man. You made that money. You bought, you brought people in your family Christmas presents. You went to the casino a little bit. Like you're doing good for yourself. So yeah, we're both in agreement. Do that, you know, and and win this league. So we got one here from Caden the Colts fan. Keenan Allen, Wandale, and Chuba Hubbard for AJ Brown. Then flip AJ Brown and Brady for Burrow. So let's tackle this one at a time. Keenan Allen, Wandale, and Chuba Hubbard for AJ Brown. Why not?
And this is a
Oh, 12-man
is
PPR.
this a redraft?
It's a good
I have to
question.
imagine it's dynasty.
Probably the way this is kind of looking. Uh, so Henry Cook, Hopkins, CD. That could be either way. So let's tackle it as a
We can do
dynasty.
both.
Yeah. So
If it's
yes,
redraft, I say no.
you say
um,
you say no if it's redraft. Okay, I think I
yeah.
say yes if it's redraft.
Okay. If it's dynasty, I say yes.
If it's dynasty, I say yes too.
Yeah.
And here's the reason why I say yes for redraft. Keenan Allen, all right, we're hoping he comes back after the bye.
Yeah.
Um, but we're hoping, we're not sure. Wandale has kind of been like, he's coming, he's going to do something. He's not here anymore. He did something, he didn't do something. I just feel like the Giants are going to be one of those teams. They're going to keep winning games. Nobody's going to know how. We're going to be like, wait, the Giants won again? Like, how did they do that? And it's going to be literally because, as corny as this phrase is, it's because 53 guys play as one, and they're going to get contributions from everywhere. We're going to be like, oh, Daniel Bellinger, and unfortunately, he has like an orbital
Dude, that was
so crack.
crazy.
Yeah, like insane. Um, I liked the little bit of hype he was getting before the season. So I hope, obviously he heals up and gets back as soon as he can. But they're just gonna find, the David Sills and and the Richie James, and they just obviously Saquon is a huge part of that. And but like Daniel Jones is like kind of doing his thing a little bit, and
It's redraft.
it is redraft. Okay, so like, yeah, is Wandale gonna get you one or two games where you're happy to start him? Sure, but you're never gonna know when those games are. And Chuba Hubbard, cool. It's the Panthers. I don't want any part of. I don't even want DJ Moore, who is the most talented part of that team. I don't know if Chuba Hubbard is. I think going to be the same thing. You'll get two or three big games, but you're never going to know when they come. And I get kind of through all of that uncertainty, and I get AJ Brown, who is going to be big time a lot more than he's not going to be big time. And I'll pick up, like the Gus Edwards and another guy off of waivers. It's not going to be Gus Edwards this week because somebody already got him, but those guys are going to pop up in redraft. So I think that's why I go with AJ Brown in a redraft.
Yeah, I can buy that. And actually, as I see one of his mentions is like what his roster would be, where it's the wide receivers are Hopkins, CD Lamb, Godwin. So like I like condensing into AJ Brown. So like even if you don't make the next trade, like you have Brady, Henry and Cook, and then you have Hopkins, CD Lamb, Godwin, and AJ Brown to shuffle. So like, yeah, I buy into that because Keenan, if like he came back last week and he was still probably not fully back, he probably just wanted to play. So I think, that's my hope. But like to get a guy on a prolific offense, I feel pretty good like trading for AJ Brown. So yeah, I think you brought me over to that side. As I think about it a little bit more. So good call on that. So the second part is AJ Brown and Brady for Burrow, and this is a 1 QB. So I think I don't do that part. I love Joe Burrow. Like Joe Burrow is my guy, and like I was, pro Joe for he was my guy. Like I had zero doubt he was it and Tua wasn't. Like that was my um whatever you want to plant my flag.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I love Joe Burrow, but I think I rather have AJ Brown and Brady. I think I can make do with Brady. Or maybe go Brady and one of your like Godwin, or maybe somebody wants somebody who's not quite contending. Maybe they'll take the stack and hope for the best. Hopefully that they come back, and maybe they do. So I would be less aggressive in going after a quarterback, I guess. So, how about you?
With you 100%. Everything you just said, especially in redraft. Um, Obviously, every league is different, but I feel like there's quarterbacks hanging out on the waiver wire all the time. Um, I mean, I picked up Geno Smith like 3, 4 weeks ago, and unfortunately, I have Justin Herbert, so I have not had the courage to start Geno, and Geno just keeps outscoring Justin Herbert, and it pisses me off.
And this is a 12-man PPR. So 12-man, I mean, you're going to have quarterbacks on
Yeah,
waivers.
I mean, even if you're just playing matchups every week, maybe 20 are off the board because people, in redraft leagues, even in 1 QB, they like to take a second one. So, but there's and there's tons of people who do this. If you just search this online, who will go through the streamers. All right, This is who you play this week. They're playing a bad defense, and you go through this every week. Even flipping, I think, is a better move for you than trading AJ Brown and Brady for Burrow. So, in a follow up here, he says, "What can I flip Brady and AJ Brown for QB wise?" I mean,
A
I,
lot of them. I would say any from 3 down.
yeah, and really, like, if I'm gonna trade AJ Brown, I want like quarterback 3, 4, or 5. Whatever you rank them as is your business. But like we were just talking about him in the last question, Jalen Hurts. Like that's what I want, because if you're telling me that I have to go with, I'm trying to think of a Matt Stafford. No, like forget it. In a one QB, I'll just take AJ Brown and I'll stream the quarterback position. You know, Aaron Rodgers. No, no, thank you. Like I'll take AJ Brown and I'll stream the quarterback position. And trust me, I get it. Brady ain't it. But like there are other options. Like who's got Kirk Cousins? Is that guy in like ninth place? Because guess what? We always crap on him. And that dude always just puts up QB1 seasons. Like, and you do not have to pay AJ Brown and Tom Brady to get yourself Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
So, you know,
I like the thought process though, but I think that you should. I think the condensing into one asset is good. It helps your starting lineup, but I think moving that into a quarterback in such a shallow roster is I wouldn't do that.
Yeah. And you know, I would love to hear what's on waivers right now, because it may just be an issue of you dropping Brady. And I know that's like
I'm
a,
fine throwing him in still. Like
a
I'm still gonna have hope. You know what I mean? Like
oh
I'm
yeah,
okay with it because he's still getting the volume, and if anything gets,
if it clicks.
yeah. I mean, I'd
Yeah.
still give it a week or two as long as I have the leeway, right? Like as
Right.
long as I'm not like in seventh place or something like that. But it looks like with that roster, you should be in pretty decent shape.
Yeah. So and that's the thing. You wouldn't mind throwing Brady in. I wouldn't mind throwing him into waivers depending on what's there.
Totally.
Like obviously I'm not throwing him in for, you know, Marcus Mariota or Andy Dalton or something like that's foolishness. But what if someone dropped Kirk Cousins because of the bye? They couldn't afford to hold on to him for a week. Like that's a guy where I go, all right, I'll throw Brady for Kirk Cousins. Like that offense has like been weird, but like they've had like kind of shining moments at certain parts of the season. Like I wouldn't mind doing that, but obviously, that's very dependent on what's hanging out and I mean, if nobody in your league has bought into like Geno Smith, like that's a move and as crazy as that sounds, again, 2022, God bless it.
Well, like we said, there's that huge tier. Just
Right.
just stream it.
Yeah, exactly. So I hope that helps, Caden. We got another one here from Jim Land. Just traded Lenny, and I received Evans and Singletary. What grade would you give it? He has CMC, Kareem Hunt, Tony Pollard, Rashad White, and Michael Carter too. So let's talk about this one. Trades away Lenny, gets back Evans and Singletary. So, Bill, I'll let you start off. What grade would you give this?
So, okay, based on the circumstances, so you have CMC, then you have 4 running backs that I'm not super stoked about starting. And then you add Singletary in there. So now I have 5 that I'm probably going to be playing matchups. I mean, maybe I'm more happy now about Pollard because Zeke's dinged up. So like CMC and Pollard would probably be my starting running backs at the moment.
Yeah.
Singletary, I'm probably only playing him when it's going to be a tough game because it seems like that's when he's on the field all the time.
Right.
But if they're going to blow somebody out, like if there's like a big spread, like, you don't even want to start him. I've learned that, trust me. And so, yeah, I like it. I think I like the trade. I mean, Lenny is somebody he would be my second running back otherwise. So, like, I mean, you are giving something up, but I think streaming those between those, maybe Carter pops. Maybe he is the guy who gets 2/3 of the touches moving forward. Rachaad White, you still have him in case Lenny does, what he does sometimes. And, he's not getting younger, and maybe the Bucks end up just saying, well, let's see what we got with this kid. So, yeah, like, I think that's actually a pretty good trade. So I'm going to give it like let's go like a B plus. I like it. I like the process here.
All right. So my grade is going to be very similar to Bill's grade. I give this a B. I like the trade from a purely value prospect. Trade away Lenny, get yourself Mike Evans and Singletary. The one negative I have about this trade is we spoke about this earlier with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's a little bit in disarray right now, and I would have rather have gotten a Mike Evans type player that wasn't on the Buccaneers, just because I don't know what's going to happen. I personally love Mike Evans, so this is not a
Yeah, and redraft, I am totally. Is this redraft?
ah. I didn't see one way or the other.
Well,
So
regardless, I like it.
yeah, so that's my only negative about this. But everything else, value. I'm such a value based trader that from purely value, I love this. That was the kind of the second level deep dive that I did into it. Was the only thing I didn't like, but I give it a B. Um, I think, like Bill said, Singletary kind of gives you a nice group after CMC to kind of just play matchups, uh, deal with bye weeks, do all that stuff, and never really feel like you're in a position where you're going to have to play a guy that kind of like I had to do with Damian Harris, where it's like, oh, I really don't
Yeah.
want to do that. You're never really going to be in that position because, you know, obviously Kareem Hunt can blow up any week. Tony Pollard is now going to get a little bit of a runway with Zeke either being out or being limited in games. Rachaad White could definitely kind of, especially if the Bucks go way off track, they might start saying, all right, well, Lenny's not going to be here next year. Rachaad White, go in there and see what you can do. And Michael Carter, is going to have a week or two because I know they traded for James Robinson, but James Robinson is going to need a couple weeks to adjust to the offense. And let's face it, James Robinson has fallen off the last few weeks. He started strong and we were like, oh man, James Robinson is back. But and maybe that's just Jacksonville saying that they're going with Travis Etienne and giving him more work, and maybe Robinson hasn't fallen off. But Michael Carter has a week or two to really kind of show himself as a player for this year. So, yeah, I give it a B. Bill gives it a B plus. I think we're both, we like that trade. We think you won out in that trade for sure. And then a follow up from Jim. This guy's trading me Lamar, and I have to give Burrow and Lockett. What do you think? All right, listen, I'm not doing that. So quit asking. So okay, this is redraft. So um we'll go to back to the first one real quick. I like it a little bit less because of the Tampa Bay to Tampa Bay. But I still think you win that trade. So I'll say that much. Now we'll go to this one now that we have more context and this being a redraft 10-teamer. Um, Lamar for Burrow and Lockett. I mean, give me Burrow. I want Burrow still. And this is the reason why. I love Lamar. Obviously, we talked about this earlier. Lamar can do it with his arm and his legs, but it's kind of been Mark Andrews and Rashad Bateman when he's healthy. But I mean, we've just seen Burrow the last few weeks really kind of kick it into gear, and he's getting Tyler Boyd involved now. I mean, obviously they still have Higgins and Chase. I still want Burrow, man. So that's my opinion on it. What's your opinion on it, Bill?
Yeah, I think I agree. I think I hold off on the Lamar trade. I mean, I don't hate it, especially if you have like a deep wide receiver grouping. Any sort of upgrade or upside if you feel like Lamar is gonna snap back and do what he did the first like 3 weeks, then you know I'm cool with it. I'm a little concerned because now they're getting the running backs back. So like Gus, they just ran. What about when they have Gus and Dobbins? Is that what they're going to do? Like I mean, not that it's going to be a minute for Dobbins, but um, yeah, I think that I just rather have Burrow in that offense. I just feel a little bit more comfortable weekly. And uh, if Lockett's somebody I will be playing during bye weeks, I'd totally rather have him. Um, unless the player that the next player in line is similar to Lockett. And then if that's the case and you feel like you like Lamar because of his rushing ability, I'm cool with it. But I think you would need to have like, that next wide receiver or next two wide receivers after Lockett need to be reasonably close to him.
Yeah, agree. I would keep Burrow and Lockett and
Yeah, I mean that's definitely the way I lean for sure.
yeah,
But if you believe in Lamar, do it. Like I mean, it's
it's
a
what it
short
is.
season and it is also um it's a 10-teamer, so you do want like more if any tier you can step up for your starters is a good one. If you believe that Lamar is a step up. So I just think they're so close and I feel like they're kind of in the same tier for me. And they're just gonna get you your points differently. So and I just believe in the offense for Cincy a little bit more.
Same here, same here. So here you go. Jim getting back to us. Said his wide receivers are CeeDee Lamb, Mike Evans, Chris Olave, and Tyler Lockett. He said, but yeah, I'm keeping Burrow.
Yeah, I would
Thanks
do
for the
that.
advice. You're welcome. Yeah, I would too. I mean, you're rocking out with a pretty good top three right there. And Lockett's nothing to sneeze at either. He and Gino have kind of hooked up a few times this year. So
No, he's been
yeah,
awesome.
yeah, I like that a lot. Here we go. We got another one here from Trey S. Evening, gents. Well, evening, Trey. Got a few questions, all full PPR. First one, we're going to take these one at a time. Olave or Devonta Smith?
Gosh, I have to keep asking these questions. Redraft or dynasty? Dynasty, I'm taking Olave. Redraft,
Say it.
I might be taking Olave.
I knew you were going to say it. I was waiting for it. My only question is because I'm reading ahead, obviously. I don't know if these are trade questions or start sit, and maybe they're kind
I'll
of
redraft. Okay.
all redraft, and maybe it's kind of one and the same. But um, God,
God, Devonta's been
I love
killing it though.
I
Like,
love
I
Devonta
mean,
Smith. Like, okay,
Olave's the guy though.
so
You know what I mean?
these are
Like, he
start
is.
sits. Just sorry to interrupt, but these are start sits.
Oh, start sits. Okay. Oh,
So
geez.
makes it. makes it a little bit better here. And I'm
Yeah, I just don't
actually
know the matchup, so
well, that's what I'm doing right now. I am talking and pulling matchups at the same time so
look at
that,
you
well,
as the host.
as, but here's the thing. I do this every Sunday. I just answer people start sit questions, and yeah, on a good week, I can hit like 100 that I answer. So on my phone, because obviously I'm doing everything from my phone, I um, I
Get a big
have the
tab open.
schedule up in another tab so that I can just, bow, bow. I just knock them out. All right. So Devonta Smith and the Eagles are going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers, while Chris Olave and the Saints are going up against the Las Vegas Raiders. I have not done that in such a long time, and I can't believe this is where I decided to do it.
Old brains.
Yeah, man, that's no good. All right, so
I think I'm going Olave. I mean, he had
ooh,
14 targets last week.
he
Like,
did, he
I
did,
mean,
he did.
it's ridiculous. And I just, I just, yeah, I'm going Olave regardless of matchup. I don't even know why.
That's fine. It allowed me to look it up because I was going to look it up anyway. God, I hate to do it, but I gotta go the other way. I think I
Well,
would.
you live in you're starting to that Kool-Aid starting to.
Nah, listen.
Um,
They beat the Cowboys by 9, and Cooper rushed through 3 interceptions. So I'm not totally signed off on the Philadelphia Eagles yet. But I love Devonta Smith, so it could be a little bit of a bias on my part. But the Steelers are just not good, and I think the Raiders are actually and I know this is going to be weird to say, a little bit underrated on defense. Not a lot, but a little bit. So I go Smith, but I mean that's tough. Like this is what I would say if I was answering this on Twitter. I would say, is there a way that you can start both guys? Like,
no, because he's got Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. I'm kidding. I don't know,
oh, I
but
was like, wow, where did you see that?
nah.
um,
Okay,
but
Singletary or Carter.
so yeah, so we'll bump to the next one. We split on the first one. Singletary or Michael Carter. I can
To
give
be
you.
clear, I am very bad at start sit. So if you're gonna go, if you're gonna go lean one way or the other, maybe lean towards Josh because I am so bad about like I'm getting better, but like me starting like my percentage or whatever, you know what I mean? Like on MFL, it shows you your percentage
Yeah,
of like
points or
um
whatever.
your quality lineup. I am like typically like half, like I'm like in the middle of the pack or lower. So part of that could also be because my team's deep
Right.
typically, so it's harder to pick starters, but I always feel like I struggle.
Ooh. All right. So Trey did answer our question between Olave and Smith. His wide receiver one is Stephon Diggs. Obviously, you do that. So that question, Olave versus Devonta Smith, was for his wide receiver two, and his flex is ETN. So I don't think I could start Smith or Olave over him. Yeah, I get that 100%. So we split on that one. So Singletary versus Michael Carter. So the Bills play Sunday night
Yeah,
against the Packers, while the Jets play.
host the
Uh,
Patriots.
they host the Patriots. So we've
Yeah.
got two home teams here, and you said it earlier, Singletary. You don't like Singletary unless that game is going to be close. Do you
Yeah, I
think
think
that
I'm going
game is
Michael
going?
Carter this week anyway because like I mean, I don't necessarily know that Robinson's going to get a ton of touches this week. His knee's a little wonky, I guess. So maybe they sit him just to be careful. So I think we might see Michael Carter get a little bit more volume than we'll see moving forward. So I don't mind playing him this week.
We're not going to split this one again. I'm going Michael Carter too. For everything Bill said, I mean, he said it perfectly. There's nothing I really need to add.
Okay, Judy or Boyd.
All right, so we got the Denver Broncos.
Oh, that's the 9:30 game.
The
Jags.
The Jags.
And then we have the Bengals at the Browns,
which is Monday night.
So Cleveland's defense has been shit
Garbage.
this year,
Hot
which is crazy. I thought Myles Garrett alone would change that, but I think I'm going. Oh, geez. I think I'm going Boyd. I don't trust Judy with Russ. Like it seems like there's something, a disconnect between Judy and Russell Wilson. So, I mean, we saw what happened when Rippon was out there with Judy. He was peppering them. So
ripping it with Rippon.
Because it's closer to the line of scrimmage. So,
right.
Lower ADOT. So, yeah, I'm going Boyd. Better offense. It's the in-state rivalry. I think Burrow is going to want to smash Cleveland because he grew up in Ohio as well. So there's just all these little, bullshit narratives I'm making up that I'm going to pick Boyd. But I don't really have anything other than narrative for me to decide.
Yeah, we're not going to split this one either. I'm going with Boyd. We've seen how Joe Burrow can take any player on this offense and give them a pretty damn good fantasy night on one throw. we saw it with Boyd last week, and obviously Boyd piled on after that. But we saw with one throw how you were like, okay, glad I started Boyd this week, So unfortunately, we haven't seen anything remotely close to that with the Broncos offense. Trey nailed it here. He actually wrote down what I thought. Seems like there's a disconnect between Russ and the entire offense, minus Courtland Sutton. I will say that because for some reason those two have a connection going on, but no one else does. So, yeah, I think that one works out as well, where we both go with Boyd over Judy. Jim, valid question. He says his first year of doing fantasy football, he doesn't know the difference between dynasty and redraft. Bill, I'll let you take this away.
Yeah, very simply, redraft. You draft every year. You have a whole new team when you start. Then there's keeper leagues where you can keep some of the players from your previous year, bring them to the next year. And then you have dynasty, which is your team is your team. You start, you do a draft, and then that is your team. And you can make trades, you can make waiver claims just like you do in redraft. But come January, February, March, those players are still on your team. And, then you have rookie draft picks. So like every year you'll draft, you might have 3 or 4 rounds or 5, and you'll draft the rookies each year. And so dynasty typically has like, there's more nuance to it. You're looking to, if you want to compete, but you don't want to have all old players so there's a little bit more, you want to have some youth, you want to have some producing veterans. There's just, there's more things to consider. So you might trade Keenan Allen for Romeo Doubs because like Dobbs is a young player that, showed a little bit, there's some questions still, but if you're like a team that's not in the playoffs or something like that, what's Keenan Allen doing for you? So you might want to kind of get younger a little bit. And it's a balancing act because you don't want to go all old, because if they all kind of retire at the same time, you're starting with nothing. and so it's kind of more like you're a GM and you're actually want to build a team and you need to build them where their contract, there's no contracts necessarily in Dynasty, but you don't want to have all your players kind of at the same age unless they're all young and good.
That's the dream. But yeah, I think Bill nailed it on the head. Dynasty is probably the closest thing to managing an actual NFL team where we don't you know we don't see I said Peyton Manning. I don't know why he popped into my head, but we don't see Aaron Rodgers on a different team every year because there's a league-wide draft where each team every year gets to pick a new set of players. That's what redraft is. You have your team for this year, and no matter what happens, whether you come in first or you come in last, those teams are wiped away at the end of the season, and then you go ahead next year and you draft, a brand new group of players to come in. So yeah,
and a lot of times, like on these shows, you're getting a lot of redraft content during the season, and then it kind of flips. Once we get to January, everybody starts focusing kind of on dynasty content or draft content, but those kind of go hand in hand. Because you need to learn more about the incoming rookies for your rookie draft.
Yeah.
So, one of my buddies who never really played Dynasty was saying like it's really helped him in redraft because he's learning about these rookies that, the other guys in his home league they're not even aware of. And, but he's already done 3-4 months of, studying of the rookies. So it's kind of helped him get some diamonds in the rough, in his redraft leagues.
For sure. And Jim, obviously, it's your first year. Glad you're doing it. Hope you're enjoying it.
Thanks for watching.
Yeah, appreciate that too. But if you have any questions along the way, man, don't hesitate to hit me up at Real Fantasy TL on Twitter. Bill is one of the nicest people out there at Super Duper Flex, and or just hit up the show at Fantasy Timeline, and DM or just tag us in a question if you're like, hey, it's my first year, some things I'm not understanding or trade question, hit us up. We'll be more than happy to get back to you and give you our opinion. So, Bill, I think on that note, we're out of here. I appreciate you, man. You came on kind of short notice. Said, yeah, man, I'll do this thing. Why not? We brought the old crew back together. It was a great time. So thank you for coming. You want to plug anything? Plug yourself? Nah, Bill.
Nah, there's nothing to plug. I'm out of the game. I'm just like everybody else playing fantasy football. Love it still. Watch a ton of content. Listen to a ton of content still. So I'm still in it. Still love it. So and it's been a good time, brother. I always enjoy coming back. It's always a little more fun when you haven't done it for a while. It's you're not in that slog of weekly chats. So it's it's definitely a good time. It was really, it was nice to do this with you.
Same, man. Anytime that you're on the show, whether you're covering for one of us or teaming up with us, it's always a ton of fun to have you on. I love hearing your insight because you may be out of the game, but your brain is still sharp as ever, giving out advice and giving your point of view on it. So appreciate you and appreciate the chat. The chat, my God, we had so many questions, man. We didn't even have to do anything from the timeline because
there's no content. It was just it was fun.
So much fun. I love, now I understand these bigger shows why, when they get a bunch of questions, they can just like kind of plow through it and it's just easy, relaxed. We get to give our opinion. We don't have to research stats and try to make ourselves sound smart. We can just go go from the top of the dome. So appreciate the chat. Remember, everybody in the chat, subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Hit a thumbs up. Hit that thumbs up. Leave a comment if you want to. All that stuff helps out, algorithms and things that I don't know anything about. But it's awesome, a show like this. And for everybody listening in podcast form, listen, Wednesday at 9 o'clock is not for everyone. People have lives, people have schedules, but you're listening to us in a podcast. Appreciate that. Just remember, if you were referred by a friend or a league mate or something, we'd appreciate if you subscribed. Leave a rate and review if your podcast directory allows you to, because that also helps us out with other algorithms that I know nothing about. So on that note, Bill, one time for the old homies, we're out of here.
Late